Hi, my name is Rachel, and today I have a very special video for you. If you're new here, I'm a book reviewer and a mom in Florida, and I've been fighting censorship in my home state and in my hometown of Tampa, and I've been making anti-censorship content since 2021. Recently, I've been inviting folks onto my channel to talk about book censorship and join the fight as a community, and today this video is very special. I feel very privileged to be able to have worked with authors whose books have been challenged and banned. They are here to talk about book bans and book censorship in the context of what happened to their own works. Often in the conversation around book censorship, the author is sort of brushed aside. Some people don't even know that the author is still alive. They are painted as these sort of faceless entities, and in some cases they are painted as this faceless entity who also wants to harm children. I'm hoping that today's video can sort of draw back the curtain and show you again which books are being targeted, but also whose works are being targeted and why. And in their own words, I wanted authors to talk about who they wrote these books for and why. That is context that censorship advocates desperately want to divorce from this conversation. But those things matter. These voices matter. Before we begin, I want to give a rundown about what book banning actually is. There's a lot of conversation around, well, it's not banned unless it meets this very specific definition that I decided on. So I want to give my spiel about what book banning is before we get into today's video, because it's important to understand book censorship, especially what we're seeing right now in the United States. It's important to know all of that before forming an opinion on it. So here's past Rachel from another book banning video, who's going to give that spiel before the authors chime in, but if you've already heard the spiel, you can jump to this timestamp if you want to start hearing about the author's experiences. Book banning does not mean a book is made completely unavailable. That is a very minimalistic way to define a broad spectrum of actions that are all rooted in the desire to control others. Book censorship, as I said, is a spectrum of actions. It has never been defined in such a minimal way by any reputable organization or group of people. No one who is being honest about this problem would say that the only bans are federal bans. People challenge books at a local level first. A book challenge is an attempt to remove or restrict materials based on the objections of a person or group. This is always the first step towards a goal of censorship. You challenge at a local place first, a local public library, a local school. Then they try to work their way up from a local institution to the broader piece of that institution, the entire public library system in a county or the entire public school library system in a county. Then they want to work up to the state level, and then they want to work up to the federal level. We are now seeing the beginnings of federal bans, with the federal government banning books from Department of Defense education activity, schools which are schools for military members' children on military bases, which are federally run. This is a stepping stone towards more federal restrictions, just like the local bans were a stepping stone towards this DODEA measure. Censorship is never an isolated incident. It is always part of a larger pattern, and that pattern starts with a challenge. They are typically done by a formal form provided by a school or a library or a district, and here are some examples of challenge forms for children's picture books, young adult books, and middle grade books. A person fills out these forms in the hope to censor the material. Sometimes the outcome is a book is banned from one school library, or it is moved from a middle school library into a high school library, which was the case for this book about Palestinian youth voices in a middle school in New York, which was deemed unfit for the middle school somehow, despite the fact that it interviews 8 and 12-year-old children. It was moved to a high school. This is one form of censorship, deeming age-appropriate things as inappropriate and making them inaccessible for their intended audience. But it will not end there. Eventually they will deem it inappropriate for the high school as well. Sometimes a book is banned just in the middle schools in a district. Sometimes a book is banned throughout the entire district. These are all different types of censorship. Book banning is defined by the First Amendment Society, and Encyclopedia Britannica agrees as book banning, a form of censorship that occurs when private individuals or government officials or organizations remove books from libraries or school reading lists or bookstore shelves because they object to their content, ideas, or themes. It does not have to be all of those places. The key word there is or. If you ban a book from one place, you have banned that book in that place. A ban is a ban is a ban. If you understand how a dry county works, then you understand book banning on a local level. It is not enough to just Google the word ban. Book banning has its own context, just like alcohol bans have their own context. To leave out that context is to lie about the state of affairs as far as censorship in the United States. Now, you might say, why did you bring people on who talked about books that have only so far been challenged and not actually banned from anywhere? Why not only allow people to talk about successful bans? Because failed challenges are still attempts at bans. they are still attempts at censorship. And they speak to a broader issue of civilians, sometimes in groups such as Moms for Liberty, attempting to install themselves as the arbiter of moral versus immoral for the rest of the population. They also are very revealing when you read the challenge forums, which I encourage you to do so, because you will learn that yes, people are trying to get books banned because they don't like queer folks and people of color. Their challenges reveal exactly who they are and what their ultimate goal is. And just because a challenge fails does not mean that that intent and that mindset is not there. It doesn't mean that it doesn't need to be pushed back against. You should pay attention when other people reveal themselves to be attempting to prevent your children or yourself from accessing information and media. Personally, I want to know when people are trying to enact their will upon my kids, even when they fail. Those failed challenges speak to blatant bigotry and show what their actual intention is. And I want to protect myself and my kids and others from those people and those ideologies. Similarly, even when proposed bills that are horrifying fail, it is not just a victory simply because, oh, it failed. Whoever brought that bill forth still believes that they should have that control over you and others, and they will try again. And I want to know about them. You should want to know about them so that you know who is in positions of power, what are they trying to achieve, and how can you protect yourself and others. What you will see is that bigots are birds of a feather. They flock together. They are like a virus. They take each other's bigotry and they spread it. So while measures might fail in one county or in one state, their friends in positions of power in other counties and other states will copy their homework and enact laws for your friends outside of your state. And as we have learned time and time again, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We must first know about this problem in order to combat it, and we only can combat it in community with each other. All right, let's hear from some authors whose books have been challenged and sometimes banned.
I'm Becky Albertalli, and I'm the author of a bunch of mostly queer contemporary YA books. I am most known for my debut, which came out in 2015, Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda. That book was adapted into the 2018 film Love, Simon. Most, if not all, of my books are widely banned all over the place. I could give you so many examples, but right now I want to highlight my third book, Leah on the Offbeat, as a pretty interesting case study. So in 2022, Leah on the Offbeat was one of 24 books receiving a permanent, forever ban from all Nampa, Idaho schools. So alongside like The Perks of Being a Wallflower, The Bluest Eye, The Kite Runner, The Handmaid's Tale, and even It's Perfectly Normal, like the puberty book. So I really love this parent statement from the school board meetings public comment period, as reported by Idaho News. Exposing kids to pornographic material is a tactic used by groomers and child predators. I would like to play you a little clip of the audio from that meeting. So this is the same parent quoted above.
Let's just remember that exposing kids to pornographic material is a tactic used by groomers of child predators. That's a huge thing. And you're allowing this material to be in our schools. At the last meeting that you guys had, I was asked, where do you draw the line? To me, that is a very simple answer. If you don't want the behavior to happen at school, then there shouldn't be a book about it at school. If it were a movie and it wouldn't be allowed to be played at school, there shouldn't be a book with that at school. It doesn't belong in the book. Sex has no place in school unless it is sexual education class that, as the state law, and parents may opt out their children. Not to mention the law states that the program should supplement the work of the home and the church in giving the youth scientific and physiological information for understanding sex and the relationship to the miracle of life, including knowledge and the power of sex drive and the necessity of controlling that drive with self-discipline. In the book, one of the books on the list, It's Perfectly Normal, it suggests that there's no self-discipline when it comes to sex. And all of these books together, none of them go into having self-discipline when it comes to sex or controlling that sex drive.
In a May 2022 Book Riot article by Kelly Jensen, Kelly included a quote from school board member Tracy Pearson, repping the Idaho Freedom Foundation, who felt that waiting for a formal review process could, quote unquote, add lifetime trauma to a child who does not need to be experimenting with something they have read about. Again, the board voted to remove my pornographic book, Leah on the Offbeat, from Nampa, Idaho schools forever. Let me read you the porn scenes. I dare you to kiss me, she says. My whole brain short circuits. I just stare at her, speechless. If you want to, she adds, pressing her lips together. Do you want to? She nods, smiling faintly. Really? Aren't you curious? I don't know. My heart won't stop skittering. I've never kissed anyone before. I've spent so many hours worrying about that. Like, I'm gonna mess this up. I know I will. I'll be sloppy or wet or too passive or too eager. Abby laughs under her breath. Leah, relax. I am. I'm just. All of a sudden, her lips are on mine, and I freeze because, holy shit, this is real. I'm kissing a person, and that person is Abby. It doesn't compute. But her fingers graze my jawline, her thumb on my chin. A million details hit me at once. The way our knees touch, the way my lips move against hers. She tastes like fruit punch and vodka. I can't believe this is happening. My hands find her cheeks, and God, what the fuck am I doing? I don't like Abby. I can't like Abby, and I definitely can't kiss Abby. I don't even want to kiss her. Okay, maybe I used to want to, but that was barely anything. A month out of my life, ages and ages ago. It's buried. It's done, and I can't. Wow, my heart won't stop pounding. Holy shit, holy shit, holy shit, because maybe it wasn't ages ago. Maybe it's now. Maybe it's always. It's like a lamp flickering on inside my chest, in my throat, below my stomach. I don't know how to explain this. I don't think my brain's working. Abby pulls back from the kiss, sinking into the couch cushion. She seems flustered, almost breathless. For a moment, we just stare at each other. I'm going to do this, I say softly, and then I kiss her, really fast. And now she's gaping at me, her eyes huge and startled. My hands fall. Oh God, you were... No, she cuts me off. Don't you dare freak out. I'm not. Good. She smiles and then takes a deep breath. Let's try this again. When I nod, she pulls me closer, threading her fingers through my hair. My heart thumps wildly. My hair's a mess. Yep, and it's about to get worse. Her thumb grazes my ear, so much worse. And suddenly her lips are on mine and my hands are on her waist, and I'm kissing her back so fiercely I forget how to breathe. I feel like a campfire, like I could burn for days, because the thing about Abby is that she kisses like she dances, like she's totally there, like she's handing you her heart. She pulls back, resting her forehead on mine. So this is happening, she says. I think so. She exhales. Wow. Is that a happy wow or a holy shit wow? It's both. It's holy shit. I'm so happy. Then she kisses me again and my eyes flutter shut. So how do I know this is what they mean when they say it's porn? I know because those are the only two kissing scenes in the book. It is porn because it's queer. And I'm laying this out because I really want to highlight the absurdity of what they're claiming, but I also want to be very clear. Books like Genderqueer, All Boys Aren't Blue, Flamer, they are also porn because they're queer. Do not buy into the Moms for Liberty framework. Leah's a fun example because their claims are so unambiguously ridiculous. But don't take away the message that Leah's some kind of exception, that this book is wrongfully placed on an otherwise reasonable list. None of this is reasonable. None of this is normal. This is a clear and pointed effort to target books by and about queer people, Black people, and other people of color. Imagine being a queer and or BIPOC student in Nampa, Idaho. I bet it feels like you, as a person, have been flagged by members of your own community as too inappropriate, pornographic, and dangerous to exist alongside your peers. That is what is dangerous. That's how you end up with a lifetime of trauma. Keep fighting this.
Hey everyone, my name's Aiden Thomas and I am the author of Cemetery Boys, the book where a trans kid accidentally summons the wrong ghost and instead of letting him go decides, you know what, I'm keeping this one, he's my problem now. Cemetery Boys is a story about a trans boy named Agell who, desperate to prove himself to his traditional Latina family, summons a ghost named Julian Diaz who refuses to move on until they figure out what happened to him. It's basically meet cute if your definition of cute involves like murder mysteries and accidentally falling in love with a ghost. My intention of writing Cemetery Boys was to give trans, queer, and Latina kids a story where they could really see themselves as the hero. Growing up, I never saw anyone like me reflected in stories that I read or even TV shows and movies that I watched. I wanted to write a book that would have made me feel seen and valid and powerful. Something joyful and uplifting despite the struggle that these characters face. And something with ghosts because ghosts are cool. Unfortunately, Cemetery Boys has been challenged and banned in various places across the United States. In May of 2024, the Hernando County School Board in Florida actually removed Cemetery Boys from school libraries, along with 18 other titles, following challenges regarding LGBTQIA content. In Texas, Cemetery Boys has also been targeted by state legislators aiming to restrict access to books featuring queer and trans narratives. And these are not isolated incidents either. Cemetery Boys has appeared on banned or challenged book lists in multiple states, part of a broader pattern of censorship against LGBTQIA plus literature. Censorship like this sends a harmful message to marginalized readers that their stories are inappropriate or don't matter. And that's exactly why it's so important that books like Cemetery Boys remain accessible. Queer kids and trans kids, especially those within the Latina communities, deserve to have their stories told. They deserve to see themselves celebrated and embraced, not erased. Books like mine are meant to offer hope, representation, and validation to those who need it most. That is the reason why these books exist. When books are censored, it's not just the stories that are being erased. It's the voices of those who need to be heard. The kids who feel like they don't belong, the ones who are searching for themselves in the pages of a book or in TV shows and movies. Taking these stories away from them is like trying to turn off a lighthouse during a storm. They need that light. To all of you watching this, thank you for listening and thank you for fighting to keep stories like Cemetery Boys available to the kids who need them, because everyone deserves to feel like they're the hero of their own story, and no one should ever be made to feel that their story doesn't deserve to be told.
Hi, my name's Ryan Estrada, and 2 of my books, Banned Book Club and Occulted, have been banned across the US. And you might be asking yourself, why would a book literally called Banned Book Club itself become a banned book? And that's a question that I had. So I actually reached out to every single person who banned my books and asked them why. And every single time the answer was, oh, I haven't actually read it. They're not reading the books that they're banning. And I really wish they were, because they'd find out that both of these books are true stories about people very dear to me. My wife, Kim Hyun-suk, my friend Amy Rose, who risked their lives to fight for the freedom to read. And in doing so, saved their country, saved their own lives, made the world a better place. But unfortunately, they're not reading the books. And I found out they don't even read the whole title. I learned when I went to Kentucky that the book Are You My Mother, the kids picture book about the little baby bird, was banned. And I'm like, why would they ban that? And I realized they'd confused it with Are You My Mother, a comic drama, an adult book by Alison Bechdel. The same people in Kentucky had confused Let's Talk About It, the Teen's Guide to Sex, with Let's Talk About It, the Sesame Street Guide to Conflict Resolution. They're not even getting past the first 2 words in the title, okay? But they claim they have reasons these books are being banned. Every one of these movements, what I've learned in researching this, they have a magic word that they think explains it all. They might say all these books are communist, or all these books are evil, they're satanic, they're degenerate, or in this case, they're all porn. But that is not the case. I have read both of these books very carefully. I can't find the porn in it, and there's no porn in any of these hundreds of books that are getting banned. The truth is, in all of these book banning movements throughout history, they're getting rid of books about the types of people that they don't want to have a voice in society. So I hope that these books stay on shelves, because they'll show the real reason these books are being banned is because they show that the modern book banning movement is following the exact same steps as murderous dictators, dangerous cult leaders, and other very dangerous times throughout history. And it never stops at the books. First they go after books about the people they don't want a voice, and then they go after the people themselves. So keep reading banned books. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, my name is Lillie Lainoff and I'm the author of One for All, which is a gender-bent reimagining of Three Musketeers that has been challenged in Clay County, Florida. One for All was the first traditionally published YA novel with a main character with postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, POTS for short. It remains one of the only YA books with POTS representation. I wrote this story because when I was a teenager, I didn't have access to books with disabled main characters or chronically ill main characters that didn't either die to teach readers a moral lesson or weren't an amalgamation of stereotypes and tropes about disability and chronic illness. I felt so incredibly alone. I was reckoning with a brand new diagnosis. Almost everyone around me didn't know what POTS was. I didn't identify as disabled or chronically ill until I was in college because I didn't feel like those labels belonged to me. I think a lot about what my life would have been like as a teenager, what my world would have been like if I had access to a book like One for All. I think about how much more confident I would have been in myself, in my own body, if I had known about the disability community, if I had known that that was a community that I belonged to, that I could interact with, I receive messages every day from readers who not only feel less alone after reading One for All, but who have also sought out POTS diagnoses after reading One for All, or have utilized the way that the main character describes her symptoms as a basis for effectively conveying their own symptoms to their doctors. POTS impacts millions of people, and it impacts over 1% of American teenagers. When One for All is age restricted and it is taken off of library shelves, depending on the library collection, you are effectively removing all of your POTS representation in young adult literature, or 50%. When I wrote One for All, I told myself, and I still feel this way, that my greatest goal was just make one person feel less alone. That by putting this book out into the world, that I was ensuring that no teenager would have to feel the way that I felt again. To have that reversed, to all of a sudden have teenagers who now don't have access to POTS representation in the books they read, is heartbreaking, and it's something that I am still coming to terms with.
Hi, my name's Jonah Newman. As a children's book editor and author, I have a front row seat to current efforts to ban or restrict books from schools and libraries. Last summer, an attempt was made to ban my own book out of left field and remove it from the public library. So I'd like to tell my story and explain why book banning is wrong. Professionally rated for readers aged 14 to 17, Out of Left Field is a graphic novel based on my experiences at that age. Compelled to hide my true self from my homophobic baseball teammates, I explored my gay identity in secret in high school. Media by and about LGBTQ plus people, including the film Milk and the graphic novel Fun Home, really helped to inform and validate me and showed me I wasn't alone. And for an insecure teenager like I was, that really meant the world. Inspired by these models of candor, I strove for honesty in Out of Left Field. My characters swear, they face pressures to drink, and they experience physical intimacy because all of that really did happen to me when I was that age. Some would argue that it's inappropriate to include quote-unquote adult language and situations in a book for teens, but to that I would say I'm just showing teenagers how they actually behave. I believe it's not only appropriate but right to portray such experiences because young people, like all people, deserve honesty. They also deserve and need truthful information and context to make safe, wise decisions. So on to my experience being banned. Last July, I was informed that a group of activists was trying to remove Out of Left Field from the public library in Mount Hope, Kansas, on the grounds that it promotes child pornography and evil. This group objected to my nudity-free portrayals of intimacy and to my depiction of LGBTQ plus adults. Others in the community pushed back. My book became the focus of a local conflict featuring heated community meetings and even threats of violence. In response to a librarian who wrote that it's important not to censor a public library's offerings, a man on Facebook threatened to hang her from the flagpole. His words, not mine. And at the moment, things have settled down a bit. The book is still in the library, but it does have an 18 plus sticker on it. I'm glad the book wasn't removed entirely, and very heartened and inspired by the bravery and integrity of those who defended its right and the right of all books to remain in the public library. But I am disturbed that Out of Left Field may no longer be accessible to those who may need it most and its intended audience. Personally, if I'd been unable to read LGBTQ plus books as a teenager, I'd have been starved of the information and context I needed to accept myself and become a healthy, happy adult. The 18 plus sticker bars my book from those who might need it the most. It also sends a clear message to LGBTQ plus teens that their experiences and even their core identity are inappropriate. Such a message can be devastating to a young person's mental health, and there's well-measured links between this sort of messaging and depression and even suicide. So I'm calling on everybody in every community to resist book banning and to preserve access to LGBTQ plus books, especially for teens, and to support vulnerable kids like I was at that age.
Hi, my name is Leslea Newman, and I am the author of many books that have been challenged. I'm going to talk about two of them. The first book I'm going to talk about is Heather Has Two Mommies, which I wrote in 1988, which was first published in December of 1989. I wrote this book at the request, actually, of a mom who told me that she did not have any books that she could read to her daughter that showed a family like theirs, a family with a child and two moms. After the book came out, not much happened for a while, and then in the early 1990s, the book was part of the Rainbow Curriculum, which was a curriculum to show the diversity of school children in New York City. And many people were upset that Heather Has Two Mommies was included in this diverse curriculum. And there were all kinds of discussions, arguments. I know at least of one physical altercation. Upshot was the Chancellor of Education at that time, Joseph Fernandez, lost his job partly because of his support of Heather Has Two Mommies, and Heather Has Two Mommies was taken off the curriculum. And then in the early 2000s in Wichita Falls, Texas, a patron took the book out of the library and refused to return it. She gave it to her minister. He also refused to return it and offered instead to give the librarian the monetary value of the book, which she refused. And then all kinds of things happened again, including about 25 copies of the book were donated to the library. There was a movement to get the book moved to the adult section of the library. That was defeated. There was a vote in the city council. And then there was a movement for the book to be in an adult-only checkout section of the library, and this book and Daddy's Roommate were the only two books in that section of the library. This went to court and it was overturned as unconstitutional. So the book went back to the children's section of the library. Now, in the year 2025, my book Sparkle Boy is being challenged in Addison County, Vermont, along with Fred Gets Stressed and Julian is a Mermaid and other books that challenge the gender stereotyping. You can see on the cover that this little boy, whose name is Casey, likes to wear sparkly skirts, just like his sister, and some people have a big problem with that. I fail to see the problem with showing children the beauty and diversity and actuality of our world. Heather Has Two Mommies has a scene in which a teacher is reading a book to the children in her class, and then by extension to the children reading the book. And the lesson is basically the most important thing about a family is that all the people in it love each other. And to this day, I fail to see what is so controversial about that message. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Dashka Slater. I'm the author of The 57 Bus, which is a true story about two young people on either side of a high-profile crime. One of them, Sasha, is white, agender, and 18 years old. The other, Richard, is Black, male, and 16 years old. And the two of them live very different lives in the same city of Oakland, California, and their paths cross for about 8 minutes each day. During one of those times that they're on the same bus, the 57 bus, coming home from school, two different schools, Richard set Sasha's skirt on fire, and Sasha is very badly burned. Richard is arrested at school the following day and charged with 2 serious felonies, each with hate crime enhancements. Taken together, Richard, who has been charged as an adult, faces the possibility of life in prison. I wrote this book really for everyone, for young people particularly because I knew they would be interested in the stories of these two young people, but it's also read by many adults. And it's a book that was there to inspire conversation. I want people to have a chance to spend some time with these fascinating, amazing young people, to learn who they are and the stories of their lives, what actually happened on the 57 bus, and then to think, what do we do? What do we do when somebody does something appalling, horrific, and yet still has the capacity to grow and learn and change? What do we do? And the conversations that this book inspires are profound. I get letters from all over the world telling me about the conversations that have been spawned, the thinking that's been spawned. I get letters that are sometimes 9 pages long from young people as they think through the issues of this story. That was it. That was my goal. Unfortunately, some people believe that talking about a queer person is obscene. There's no sex in the book. There's not even any kissing, but there are some word definitions that explain the words that Sasha uses to describe themselves. Words that describe gender and sexuality and romantic inclination. That's it. If you are interested in reading a page turner, a true crime story that is about two very compelling young people and the bus ride that brought them together, it's called The 57 Bus. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Charlotte Agell, and I'm an author-illustrator in the state of Maine. First of all, I want to do a shout out to all librarians. As a recently retired public school teacher and as someone who learned English as a Swedish kid in Canada in a library, thank you. I want to talk a bit about some of my books. While most of my books are picture books, I do have two that were challenged, and it hit me kind of deeply because I felt like there was a lot of fear and not a lot of reason behind the challenges. They were minor. One of the books was my book Shift, which weirdly enough is a dystopian novel featuring the United Christian States of America. It came out in 2008, and I was wrestling with the notion of fundamentalism. I think the central message of this end times for profit government, 14-year-old hero having to save his scientist mother, was, is it faith if you're being forced to think it? And I remember being up in a library in one of our towns here in Maine, and a woman's first question was, why do you hate Christians? She had not detected that it was satire, I guess. That was a complicated question. It was never meant to offend, just meant to provoke thought, which I guess is a dangerous thing, this thought-provoking business. But I'm all for it. The other book that was once presented at a conference, someone, I wasn't there, but someone told me that India McAllister, which is a story of a fourth grader, the first thing that the person reviewing it said was that this is a disgusting book. Actually got a lot of great reviews. It's ended up on the Bank Street Top 100, the ALA, Top 10 Rainbow, because India's father is gay and his partner is a man. This was before marriage equality, so they are not married. Also in this book, her mother is an artist, and somewhere in here is a picture of a breast. It's actually just a sketch. Well, it's in here somewhere, this illustrated book, but it has its place, and it's not prurient interest in the least. It's easy for me to say that, maybe, as someone who grew up in Sweden, but again, it's that thing where kids have a right to a breadth of reading experiences, and as many as the tiny little annoying challenge problems with these two books have been, really there has been far greater acceptance, and of course that's what we're fighting for. Far greater acceptance, breadth of thinking, the power for celebrating the power of books, for going there. Thank you for fighting.
Thank you so much. I cannot stress how thankful I am. Thank you so much to the authors who participated today. It is incredibly courageous to write stories and these stories at all. It is even more courageous to talk about it when there are active attempts to silence you. Thank you for your work in both regards. It has been a privilege to work with you all on this project and be trusted with your stories and your thoughts and what you've experienced regarding censorship attempts. A huge shout out and thank you to Adib Karam from Authors Against Book Banning, who helped put the word out about this project and helped me get in touch with more authors for this project. And thank you again to Rebecca Coffendaffer for putting me in touch with Adib. If you're an author whose works have been challenged either at a public school or a public library, even if the challenge was unsuccessful, your work and your voice matters. Who you wrote that book for matters. And despite attempts to rewrite the narrative, your reason for writing these books matters, and it deserves to be heard. I would like to make this into a series, so if you are willing to participate in the next episode, if your work has been challenged or if it has been challenged and banned, I would love to have you involved. Thank you again to everybody who contributed to this project, and thank you so much to everybody for watching. Please get involved in your local communities, join the fight against censorship, arm yourself with knowledge, and support each other. If you made it this far, please leave your favorite challenged or banned book down below. There are resources from Florida Freedom to Read Project and PEN America compiling where book censorship attempts happen and where they are successful. Also check out Authors Against Book Banning, which is linked down below. Thank you again, and I will see you next time. Bye.